Welcome to Offscreen. This week we're reading The Babysitter by Brian Duffield. A lonely 12-year-old boy in love with his babysitter discovers some hard truths about life, love, and murder.
Okay, before we talk about Brian Duffield, we have to mention this was a request from a listener. The very first request we've gotten.
Which is a great honor. I was very happy about that.
Yeah.
Super cool.
His name's Ken. I'm not going to say his last name. We're not going to put him on blast. But yeah, he requested that we read this. It was on the blacklist in 2014.
And recently placed well on the blood list.
I don't know what that is.
It's a list of horror scripts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But yeah, he emailed us at info@ospodcast.com.
Yes.
You can email us there with a request, with
and
a question, comment, anything.
Yeah, anything. But
we'll respond.
Yeah, definitely. But if it is a request, we'll do our best. I don't know for sure, if you just pick any old movie that's coming out, I don't know if we'll be able to find the script or not. This one was definitely. We'll do our best. This one was
easy to find.
Yeah, we'll definitely do our best.
Do our best.
This one was easier because it was on the blacklist.
Right.
Anyway, thank you, Ken.
Yeah, thanks, Ken.
So, Brian Duffield.
Brian Duffield, pretty young guy, has had a lot of success. He's credited for writing the Insurgent movie.
Yeah.
That's what it's called, right?
Yeah, Insurgent.
One of the writers.
Divergent movies, right? It's the Divergent is like the series, right?
I don't know. I saw part of the first one.
Okay.
So I guess I saw part of that one.
It's like a sci-fi based on a book series
like a
thing.
YA novel, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. He's also credited for Jane Got a Gun, which was a super interesting sounding project that had a lot of controversy and stuff.
Really?
So Lynn Ramsey was set to direct, who's like a really good Scottish director, and Natalie Portman was a producer, and she's going to star. But then Lynn Ramsey left the project for some reason, and there was a whole fallout, and then some of the actors left because they wanted to work with her.
According to this, Natalie Portman is at least still in the lead
still
role.
Involved, yeah.
And it says it comes out in February next year.
Yeah, they replaced Ramsey with Gavin O'Connor. I think he...
He's
made some movies.
Oh, he did Warrior. Yeah.
And it looks like The Babysitter is also coming out. Mick G is going to produce and direct it.
You had some feelings to share about him?
I mean, they're not great feelings about Mick G.
I haven't seen any of his work, really. Like, he's done mostly TV, right?
Well, Chuck is a pretty cool show, and I think he was involved in the OC. But he's been involved with some kind of...
lackluster?
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm
films?
just hating too much. I was informed that I was hating a lot on The Imitation Game. So maybe I'll back off Mick G, but...
Well, he didn't have anything to do with that movie, though.
No, but I mean, it's like he's of equal quality in my personal eyes.
Okay. I'm a little put off by him just going by Mick G. That seems...
I don't know.
Like he's just too cool for school.
Maybe he's too cool for school. No, but remember like This Means War? Like he did that movie. And
don't remember that.
Yeah, it was like dreadful. And Terminator Salvation, also pretty not good. Whatever. This movie's getting made, which is awesome for Duffield.
All right. Should I just do the summary?
Yeah.
Okay. 12-year-old Cole Johnson is getting a little too old for a babysitter. Unfortunately, his babysitter B is still too old for him. She's a senior in high school, and Cole has always had a crush on her. The two of them get along famously, cooking pizza, making vulgar jokes, and watching sci-fi movies, while Cole's bickering parents get away for the weekend, supposedly working on their marriage. But this weekend, something is different. As Cole lies awake in bed, unable to sleep, he hears more people arrive downstairs. B has invited some other high school friends over, including a nerdy-looking boy she seems to like. As he spies on them from the stairs, Cole's heart is nearly broken, when B suddenly stabs the boy with 2 knives, one in each ear. Cole watches in horror as the other high schoolers ceremoniously collect the blood from their murdered classmate. Meanwhile, B consults an ancient-looking tome, saying the kid is next. Betrayed, Cole dials 911, but gives himself away in the process. The high schoolers give chase, and it isn't long before they have him tied down to a chair. Thankfully, they only intend to collect his blood from a needle, no killing necessary. But before B can explain what's going on, the cops show up, responding to Cole's call. Within seconds, the high schoolers have violently killed both officers. Still, it gives Cole time to make a break for it. After eluding each of them in turn, he makes his way to the neighbor girl's house. Her name is Melanie, also something of a crush for Cole. Melanie gives Cole the keys for her dad's SUV, but before he steals the car, Cole returns home for one final confrontation with B. With all the other high schoolers either killed or incapacitated over the course of the night, it's down to her to explain. B only alludes to a vague plan, something of the occult, and that this isn't the first time she's done all this. Cole, still reconciling his feelings for her, finally swipes the ancient book from B and sets it on fire. He tosses it into the next room to distract her, while he runs next door for Melanie's SUV. Just as B tries to save her book, Cole plows into his own house and runs her over. More police arrive on the scene, ambulances too. They haul away the high schoolers as necessary, whether alive or dead. But strangely, as they sift through the aftermath, no one can find B's body. Cole's parents are the last ones to return home. Cole greets them, simply saying, "I don't need a sitter anymore." The end? Question mark?
There's more, right?
Well, I was going to save that. We can talk about that.
Oh, sure.
I don't have a summary for that very last bit.
See, I didn't take it, so let's just say how it ends.
Okay.
It says the end, and then it says, here's the first scene from The Babysitter 2.
Right.
I took that as kind of like a joke, because there's a lot of like in-jokes like in the screenplay, and the last scene of the screenplay is actually going to be...
I do think it would actually be... I do think it would actually be in the movie, yeah. Mm-hmm. If for no other reason than it needs all the time it can get. It needs all the material, because it's already super short.
Right. Say what you told me about the word count.
Yeah, so the very first thing that I think both of us remarked upon when we met after reading this...
So first of all, I'm going to interrupt.
Yeah.
But it's like 93 pages long. It's a really fast read.
Yeah.
And it's a really fast read for a reason, and I'll let you explain that reason.
Well, yeah, it's mostly just formatting stuff. The descriptions are usually pretty sparse. There's a lot of dialogue, and he employs a lot of spacing, I guess, between lines. Yes. So that and it's for emphasis, supposedly. Like he'll just put something on its own line in caps or whatever, or in bold.
Which I don't necessarily have a problem with.
That's fine. In fact, it's almost equally annoying the opposite way. If we've had other scripts where we made a note of how it's just these big blocks of text, and it's really hard to like unpack it while you're reading. But this is like the opposite end of the spectrum, and it's also a problem because it's super short. Like it's 93 pages, but it's not really that's not going to equate to a minute a page, not anywhere close. I actually did a word count on this script and on the script from last week, which was Capsule. So The Babysitter has 14,000 words roughly. Capsule had 24,000 words.
So like just ridiculous.
Almost twice as many.
It's ridiculous. So
I feel like if this is one of the reasons I want to see this movie, because
it's going to be like a 48-minute movie.
I don't know how they're going to stretch it. Like I always outline these scripts as I'm reading them. I'll make note of each scene one by one. There are only like 20 scenes in here. A usual movie has like 40, 50
really
on average. So yeah.
I mean, there's a page that just says like...
There's a page 32, all it says is, "What the fuck?"
Right.
In giant letters that take up the whole page.
Yeah.
That's like the big reveal right when B stabs the kid in the living room. So it's like a really good, shock and reveal in the script.
It's cool, but that's for the reader. That's not for the audience.
Right. I can only...
The best jokes in this screenplay were for the person reading the screenplay.
Right.
And they won't translate it all to anyone watching it.
Right. There was a lot of stuff like that, which, I usually don't like, and I think it's generally frowned upon when you do stuff like this. Like, even the very opening line of the script. Let me find it really quick. It just says, "Cole is 12 years old and losing his mind." That's like not something that you're seeing. That's not a visual description. I mean, it's, I guess, just supposed to be a hook for you to get into the first scene. But there's a lot of stuff like that.
For me personally, that's fine if there is other stuff.
But there's
that
other
that
stuff.
shows how he's illustrating his mind, or if like saying
Yeah.
that he is losing his mind is establishing a framework within which for us to read it.
Right.
So we think about the other things that we see later on.
Well,
in the
and it does
screenplay
go
differently.
on to say he stands with his back against the wall, hands raised. That's fine. So maybe they could have just done that. They don't need to actually say he's losing his mind. Or like there's another part where it says, this is page 15. It says in the description line, Cole had never thought of this. And then immediately afterward, Cole has a line, I never thought of that. Which is, I guess, supposed to be, like you said, a little inside joke for the writer. But there's so much of that. And there's...
The best jokes. There's like Friday Night Lights jokes.
Wait, what? I missed that.
Like there's just like the best jokes are like jokes for the reader. It's not really it's a comedy horror, right? Ostensibly.
I guess.
That's not scary.
It's not super funny either.
It's not funny.
Yeah.
Really, it's just most witty in the way that it's like talking to the reader.
Yeah. But I was going to say, I can only hope that Brian Duffield was doing this in the hopes of attracting a director who's really going to lay it on thick with the style and like try and, that big page that just says what the fuck. I imagine, if you have to translate this to screen, that is trying to convey like this moment needs to really linger and be extreme, and you're gonna have to do something with it, something really visual or dynamic or crazy. I'm imagining.
I mean, I don't have a problem with any of this.
If
there was something more to it than just that.
Yeah.
But it's just all surface.
Yeah. I was imagining something almost like Scott Pilgrim, stylistically. I feel like is what you would have to do. That's the amount of style that I feel like the director is going to have to bring to the table to fill in the gaps left by this writer.
Sure.
Anyway, should we get into the actual story a little bit?
Yeah.
One of my first comments, I guess, was that, okay, well, let me preface this by saying I'm not good at talking to kids just in real life, and I feel like I can blame this in part on movies and scripts like this, because there are always precocious kids in all of these scripts. They're always like so grown up, and they have dirty mouths, and they talk just like adults, and oh, aren't they clever? And it's supposed to be like endearing or like shocking or funny. And I never know how to talk to kids now, because I don't know. I feel like I'm either talking to them like an adult, or I'm trying not to be condescending to them, and they just don't understand me. Or if I dumb it down, I dumb it down too much, and then they think that I think they're an idiot or something. And I feel like it's movies like these that are throwing off my barometer for kid intelligence, because all of the kids in this sound really adult. And I just felt like all the characters sounded kind of the same.
They did.
Yeah.
No one has their own voice. It's all the voice of the writer.
Yeah, they're all really snarky. Yeah. They're all making like pop cultural references and using a lot of vulgar language and just being...
It's not super vulgar.
Some
a
of
little
it.
bit, yeah.
They talk about blood orgies at one point. But yeah, so that rubbed me the wrong way.
I mean, I think you're right in saying that there is no distinct voice for the specific characters. It's just really like a snarky, kind of self-satisfied, sometimes clever screenplay. There's not much more than that to it.
Yeah, like, the story, very little actually happens in the story.
Yeah, very little happens.
There's actually a line that I think summed it up perfectly, and I think is a sign that the writer can see that this is a problem and is just trying to call it out. Page 76. Cole is talking to B. She says, it's like 5 a.m. And he was like, what? I thought this was all continuous and in real time. And she says, no, that's just the adrenaline. Because, yeah, obviously if you, like I was reading this thinking it would have only taken like a couple of hours.
Yeah.
I had some real problems with just the believability of certain things, too. Cole does some really stupid stuff. for a kid who is supposedly really sharp. I feel like then this is such a horror movie thing too. They're being chased around the house and they go upstairs. Why do you go upstairs? Run away. Run out the door.
Right.
Also, this isn't Cole being stupid, but when he calls 911, he like ends up having to hang up on them because he realizes the high school kids are like listening.
Right. But then the solution is to grab a dull pocket knife and be like, I'm good.
Yeah, well, and 911 calls him back, first of all, which I don't think happens.
No,
especially though, well, he was clear with them that he needs to be quiet.
Yeah.
So why would they call him back? That seems like
let me ask you this. When the 2 cops do come back and then no one hears from them for a few hours, why don't they send more cops?
Well, I don't know if that was what they were trying to do when the cops finally do show up at the very end.
I think the cops came back because there's a ton of commotion going on in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and he drove his car into a house.
Yeah, he drove his car into his own house. I think that's reason enough to send the cops.
Yeah,
and the firefighters and whoever else.
Good point. Yeah, I don't know.
Like, why don't they come back? Why is what's the girl across the street?
Oh, Melanie.
Melanie. Like, Melanie's dad just doesn't wake up until the very end.
Right.
Like, they make it clear that he's there. It's just super cheesy that, like, I don't know, when they introduce Melanie, they're like, the screenplay is like, definitely not a potential love interest. Like, the joke is that obviously she is.
Right. So,
like, it's kind of like satirizing these tropes, but it doesn't really do it. It doesn't really do anything. And it just really embraces them, but in, like, the most nonchalant, non-committal way.
Yeah. Like, the whole joke is the writer being like, oh, isn't it dumb how movies always do this? And it's like, yeah, it is dumb. Yeah, your script is dumb. It's doing all of these things.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, exactly. It's really well put. He's like, this is really dumb. I'm going to go ahead and do this. And it really just, it's like, it's not something to take seriously, but it's like annoying when they're being, like, dude's getting shot at, like, by B. Cole's getting shot out at, and he, like, runs into Melanie's house and he, like, falls on top of her.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, isn't it funny how we always end up on top of each other?
Yeah.
Really, that's what you're thinking in that moment?
I know, yeah. Oh, I made that same note.
There's no believability to it.
And then they try to have a moment between him and Melanie, which is just not at all earned by virtue of the fact that they just don't spend any time together in the script. He suddenly runs over to her house for help. They're there for a few minutes, but before that, they've barely interacted in the script, and then they're already in this scene.
Well, the issue is that there's no characters. There's no character development. They're just ciphers for the author's voice.
But what I was gonna say is, in that scene where he runs over to her house, they have a moment where she kisses him very spontaneously, and it's supposed to be like this invigorating, inspiring moment for him to go back and save the day.
That's why this is a coming of age script. That's how they got that little genre tag.
That kiss was yeah. But yeah, it just did not feel like it had earned that moment. Which, anyway, why does he have a crush on B if he also has a crush on Melanie? It felt a little muddled, like, supposedly the whole crux of this. I think
it's possible.
I mean, you can have a crush on 2 people at the same time for sure. But
B's like a super hot 18-year-old who's incredibly nice to him and defends him from, like, the bullies and all that stuff. Like, obviously he's going to be infatuated. But obviously he can't, like...
She's just the unattainable.
She's the unattainable, like, more of a friend.
Yeah.
Whereas Melanie, like, she's 12, he's 12, They could be a thing. He keeps falling on top of her.
Yeah.
B was, like, it was really nice how B was portrayed in the beginning. Like, she seemed like a super nice person, like, smart. She defended him when the bullies were picking on him.
Yeah. But then, of course,
they had, like, a nice, witty...
Rapport,
exactly. And then, it turns out she is just like a killer.
Well, I have a question about this, and I don't know if you know the answer, because I didn't think it was clear. But first of all, let me go into slightly more detail about that ending where it says, here's a scene from The Babysitter 2, and this time it's a little girl, and she's tied up in a chair, just the way Cole was, and her parents suddenly come home, and B is there, and she's like, what are you doing here already? You weren't supposed to be here yet, and the surprise is supposed to be like, oh, the parents, I guess, were in on this, and, like, made a deal with B to try and take out their kid? That's what I don't know. Like,
I don't think they were going to kill the kid.
Well, no, but
they were just knocking the kid out and
taking his blood,
taking her blood. I don't know.
Or yeah, taking her blood. But that's what I didn't get. That's what I was going to ask. If you understood, am I supposed to take from that Cole's parents were also in on this whole thing?
I mean, I don't know.
That's what I don't know either.
It's really muddled. It just doesn't work because there's nothing to the horror plot.
Well, yeah, they don't really explain it. That's why in the synopsis I just said she explains like sort of vaguely what she's doing, but all she says really is that she's done this before. She moves from town to town and does this, and she has to collect blood for some reason. She has like a weird statue that she uses to deposit the blood into, and it's supposed to be some kind of like a satanic ritual or something. I don't know, but they never explain what it is exactly. And yeah, it was very frustrating.
Yeah.
I hope we're not offending Ken for requesting
No,
this.
I'm glad that
he requests the script and we just rip it apart.
We rip it apart, but I'm glad that he requested it. I'm glad that we read it. It's something that placed highly on the blacklist. It placed highly on the blood list. It's sold. It's in the process of getting produced. It's good to read.
Yeah, sure. It was definitely very different from any script I've read, which there's some value in that for sure.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of, to go back to what I was saying before, there's a lot of like television and like pop culture references, which I think, and I don't know how I feel about that overall. I think in this case it's annoying because they're just superficially alluding to Friday Night Lights, to Mad Men, to these different shows, and it adds nothing to the screenplay other than like, hey, you reader, you audience, you've probably watched these shows, like, you know,
that's
it's not engaging or interacting with them in any way. It's not like a dialogue. It's just like a, hey, like, feel good about yourself because you recognize this.
That's always been my frustration with this whole postmodern obsession with references and. Well,
it's cool if there's like a reason for the reference. Like in Tarantino's movies, there's a lot of pop culture allusions, but those are purposeful, or they contribute to
it's either
the aesthetic of the movie. Here, it's just like
it feels like he's paying homage, or he's actually honoring those things he's referencing.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they'll subvert it.
Of it.
Yeah, or sometimes they'll subvert some expectation from what you know of the movie they're referencing or whatever. But yeah, I hate it when it feels like it's only there for the satisfaction of those people who are in the know.
Yeah, and it's not like if it were really clever, that's one thing. Like, but it's not. And then annoyingly, at one point in the scene description, so it's nothing that even translates. They take the most famous line from Friday Night Lights, "The clear eyes, full hearts can't lose," and that's like that ends up being like 6 lines in the screenplay.
I didn't know what that was.
To like in a motivational spot for Cole. So like that is just complete emptiness. It's just nothing.
That's pretty harsh.
But like, I don't know. Like that's the joke. The joke is about Friday Night Lights, but that's something that doesn't translate into the scene at all.
Right.
Because Cole is going to do whatever he does, and he's going to do that.
People watching the movie are going to have no idea it says that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wanted to make one other little point, which is kind of picky, I guess. It's just a thing that I've noticed a lot, which I usually take it as sort of a bad sign when this happens, and this happened when Cole was running from the high schoolers. He goes next door to Melanie's house, then he comes back to his house again, then he goes back to Melanie's house again. That sort of back and forth thing, I think, is usually bad. That's usually a bad sign. At least me personally, when I'm trying to write things, I avoid that. I feel like it's usually best to consolidate locations, and if you're going back and forth and then back again, if the same character is going back and forth and then back again, it feels awkward to me. Like, that felt really awkward to me. First of all, he's just next door. It's not like he's that far even, and it's
maybe
not
it's
really
like a
that
funny
safe.
like visual joke, like him just going back and forth.
I don't
think that's what they're going for.
is.
But that makes me think of like it's different, but there's some scene in like Forgetting Sarah Marshall where like the guys are running back and forth between like two adjacent hotel rooms.
Uh-huh.
And it was done in like one shot, and it was pretty funny.
Oh, okay. That's different. I think that can be funny for that very reason that it's a problem if you're not doing it for a joke. It's awkward. I think it can be funny if it's like a screwball sort of thing, or it's like a farcical sort of, like in Clue. That movie is great. They're always constantly running back and forth in between the same rooms. But it's just supposed to be like absurd. But here there was none of that. It was just, I felt like it was just awkward.
Yeah.
Logistically.
So
verdicts?
Verdicts. I would pass on both the screenplay and the writer.
Okay. I want to pass on both, but I also don't want to just. I want to try and give two sides to this.
Okay.
I would at least want to see another script by him. And if he's doing all these same crazy things, maybe then I would pass. But I mean, he's definitely creative. He's thinking outside of the box. It was interesting to read for that reason. I think I would pass on the script, but I'm at least going to consider the writer. At least.
I mean, by saying pass on the writer doesn't mean that like I think he's incapable of ever writing anything worthwhile.
It means you think he's a bad person.
No, not at all.
And you hope that something comes to some harm.
No, quite the opposite. I wish him well, and I read an interview. He seemed cool. But just from having read this screenplay, there isn't anything that would want me to.
That would make you want to
have him rewrite my next project, or anything to that effect.
Well, that's an interesting point. I don't know if maybe he had a co-writer to like rein him in a little bit. That might help.
Like I liked the ways in which it was witty, but there just needs to be something beyond that.
It was all style, no substance.
Exactly.
That's a cliche thing to say, but I think it applies.
But it's cliche because it's needed to be said several times before in history.
All right. Before we say what next week's script is, just a little bit of housekeeping. That was dumb. I don't like the way I said that. But that's what all the podcasts call it, housekeeping, when they do this. But I just wanted to say we have a website, ospodcast.com. I feel like a lot of people are just finding us on iTunes, which is fine. That's cool. But you can actually find all of the scripts on the website. We have a link to a Google Drive with all the scripts we've read, plus we'll always put up the script for next week.
If you can read ahead and form your own opinions, and then think how stupid we are. As we talk about the screenplay. And there's also, you didn't mention, but you were probably about to. There's a comment section. For each of the screenplays.
For each episode. You can leave comments. Nobody has done that yet, but
it'd be super cool because it's a great way to.
Well, it'd be cool if they got to know each other a little bit. If the people listening got to know each other.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, we all love screenplays. We love screenwriting. We love movies. Talking about them.
Yeah.
And, what better way to start a community, open up a dialogue, etc.?
Yeah. But also, if you just want to reach us, there's that email, like we said, info@ospodcast.com.
Yeah.
Okay, so next week, we're going to read a script called Gay Kid and Fat Chick by Bo Burnham. Two high school misfits become costumed vigilantes and take out their frustrations on the students who have bullied them throughout high school.